now that I have my main form built and stretched over my cardboard frame, now I have to start thinking about, you know, these things and these elements. How am I going to build that? Now we know how to work with slabs. Like I've rolled out some of these nice little slabs that I'm going to be using here in a moment. Okay, we know how to do that, but we haven't really talked about coils too much, although we did do handles on our mugs. And so for coils, just a kind of a quick review. Okay, so I kind of roll for a little bit. If I keep going back and forth, I'm going to end up with a coil that's like strangely stretched, and I'll also have these dents in it. Okay, so you want to use two hands, stretching it this way and this way. I'm letting it roll a little bit so it's nice and round. Now I'm going to make mine kind of thick. Okay, so it depends on what you want. So I'm going to take a look at my image here, and I've got this kind of this ear form going on. So I'm going to sort of start to let's make this a little thinner here. Okay, I'm going to stretch this, and I'm going to kind of go, well, we're going to go the other way. Sort of go like this. And we're going to sort of do that. Okay, so that kind of is looking a little bit like that. Similar. Okay, so I'm going to attach that on there. Now I can make this bigger if I wanted to. Now, if I just kind of push it on there, it's not going to stay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of just trace it lightly around it, so I know where it's going to be. And if you do that, you can just do that. Okay. Kind of pull it off there, and hopefully it'll retain its shape. Okay, now I have to get my scoring tool. Okay, I've got my scoring tool, and my water cup, and my brush, and I'm going to score that pretty well back and forth. Okay, really scratch that up. Gets clay on it, you can just scrape it off. And it's okay if you get kind of outside of your lines, because we can always go back and smooth that out. So a little bit extra scoring is better than not enough. Okay, all right, that looks pretty good. So now I've got to take this, flip it over, and I'll score the back. Whoops. Okay, make sure you're roughing it both ways. Don't just do that. Make sure you're roughing it both ways, because if you just kind of have lines like that, that's not going to make it stay. So really rough those up. And again, you may have to scrape that clay off so those little teeth are there. All right, so now I'll take my water, and I'm just going to kind of dab it on there. And there'll be lots and lots of scoring and slipping all the time, although we're not using slip, we're just sort of using water because the clay is so wet. Remember, clay or water does not make clay smooth, it makes it sticky. We're kind of like making slip on here. All right, so now I'm just gonna have to put this on here. So let's see, so I kind of did this, and I did that, and I did that. So I'm just gonna sort of press, okay, press that on there, like so. And if you need to press a little bit harder, you can have your hand in the back. You always want to sort of have your hand on the opposite side, so it will keep pressure on there so we're not caving in our piece. Okay, but if it caves in a little bit, we're okay. Okay. All right, that's pretty well attached. Now I can go in and sort of just smooth out those scratched areas that I don't want. I can even use the round part of this tool to really sort of get in there and get those little crevices. Okay. But we can do that a little bit later too, it's not that important. So now I have to look at my drawing so I can say, oh, does that look pretty good? Do I like what I see? Maybe I need to smooth it down a little bit. Maybe I want it a little bit more smooth, so I can take my finger and do that. If you're doing this, then just push your finger on the other side. Otherwise the clay will move this way and it'll be in the wrong spot. So maybe I want to do that a little bit so that there's no longer a crease. Okay, maybe I want to connect these up. Maybe I want that to go down. And maybe over here I want this to go down. And again, you can leave parts that are sort of open or not, depending on what you want it to look like from your original drawing. Okay, so that's sort of my ear form. Now, my nose form, I went ahead and I'm going to be making this little triangular prism, okay, of like the nose. So I've got these two pieces and this little piece are going to go together for the nose. I cut that a little strangely, so I'll tap it in there. All right, so that means I've got to score here and here. And then I need to score on this side. And you can just go ahead and score the whole thing because this is going to be on the inside. Okay, then I need my water. Make sure it's on both sides. Okay, then I'm going to put it together, and I'm just going to do it like so. Make sure that's all the way on the edges there. Okay. And normally you'd be working on the table and not the clay board. Okay, that's getting on there. Okay, and then I could come in and I could smooth that out a little bit. Make sure my finger's on the inside there. I'm going to erase that line. If your finger's not on the inside, it's going to push and it's going to rip. Okay, so I'm trying to erase that line here. And then from here I have to figure out, all right, well, how do I want this? I'm going to go, almost looks like there's like boogers here. I can get rid of that. I'm going to attach it like so, which means I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to just lightly trace around it so I kind of know where it is. And now I can score in those spots. And again, don't be afraid to really score it really well. And I'm going to score here this time. And then I can attach it. Now there's one thing. Now I don't have mine, I don't have another piece here. If this was totally enclosed, right, this is totally enclosed with another piece like this, I can't trap air in here. So I need to make a hole. So to do that, I can just use the end of my brush, kind of push it in like this until I can see the bag. And once I know I can see the bag in there, I can see the bag. Now I can put this over the top because now air will come from the back and it will be all open and it will be okay. It will dry out. We don't want to trap air. We trap in air. It keeps the area moist. And then when we go to fire it, the moisture expands extremely rapidly in the kiln when it gets up to temperature and it explodes. All right, so I'm going to push that on there. Whoops, I don't want that on there. And again, you can hold this from the back. Kind of this shapes a little, just deforms a little bit. So now I can kind of go back and figure out, well, do I want that angled? Do I want that angular? I can kind of pinch it into shape a little bit. I can pinch those ridges into shape a little bit. And now I can come back with my finger and say, all right, well, how do I want this to be? Again, if you can't reach the little curved part of the knife tool, is really great for doing that. Or maybe I want this totally blended in up here. Kind of depends on what you want. Okay, so mine is starting to take shape. So again, using coils and slabs and attaching them on there.